Hey, Paul Sakis, good news. Planet, speaking to Stephen Mead. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Very well, Paul. Thank you. Great to see you again.
Look at it, the bullseye guy, but he's got a bullseye right behind him. Plus, he's got something called Bamboo, and he's got something called Moneta Pro. Let's start with the
Netta.
Moneta Pro because it has something to do with barter and money and helping
Correct.
others move their lives in a different way.
Yeah, so let's do a little consolidation, Paul. I'll cover it all in an arc. Lifelong entrepreneur. I've never had a job. I actually am technically a workaholic. I'm unhireable, but I didn't know why in college nobody would hire me. And it's because I tend to think outside of the box. And when I was 22, I went to work at Travelers Group. And over 6.5 years, I read 357 books. So I read one book per week, dissected the elements, and I created a program called a bullseye belief system. And that's sort of this bullseye over my shoulder is step 3 of a 10-step program I've created about how not bullseye in isolation to me is not about being alone. It's about being specific, targeted, very focused.
Okay.
I took my first company public in 1999 when I was 31 years old, close to $1 billion, precursor to what became PayPal. And in 2001 or 2, rather than having a website, stephenmead.com, look how cool I am, I said, hey, I'm going to be a technology incubator before incubators were cool. And so my incubator company is called Big Bamboo. And the funny part is, Paul, a quick little story. When I moved to LA, people would go, oh, you sell bamboo. I love bamboo. I have bamboo in my Malibu beach house, in my floors. I don't sell bamboo. Big Bamboo, the analogy of bamboo growing is a metaphor for businesses. Bamboo doesn't grow for the first 4 years. And in those 4 years, it's putting down roots and infrastructure to be able to grow very big and very fast. So Big Bamboo to me was an analogy that companies don't just sprout up overnight. And if they do, they fall over very quickly. You need to have roots and infrastructure, and whether it's self-improvement on your own or learning skills, you need to have infrastructure in order to be able to grow. So that's Big Bamboo Incubator, that's Bullseye, and then MonetaPro is the current project.
And the current project is?
Current project, I do things that are like Kandinsky's concentric circles. They overlap. We've built a B2B marketplace. So think of eBay, but for business. So eBay is a business to consumer marketplace. You list assets, you sell them, you have a single username and password. We built a marketplace that is for big companies so they can create divisions, departments, rights and authorities, hierarchies, controls. They can list assets and they can sell not only for credit card, which eBay and Amazon do. They can do cash settlement. We do wire transfers, multi-million-dollar transactions. But we built something really cool called a G-BUC, a general business usage credit, a store credit. And we've built a marketplace for what's called corporate barter. And again, that's where the name comes from. In the old days of barter is commerce among civilizations. I've got chickens, you've got milk. Well, if I give you chickens and I don't want milk, I need money. I need something portable to go buy what I want. And the first form of portable currency ever was not the lira and the lita and the coins. It was the moneta seashell. So the word money comes from moneta, which is I'll give you something, give me money to buy. And so MonetaPro is a marketplace for companies to list goods, sell them to another party, get an electronic credit like a store credit, and go buy what they want.
Within the same group or somewhere else?
Within a marketplace. So again, I do what's called retrospective evolution. I say, let's look back where we understand this and move it forward to something different. Imagine very simply, you're in eBay and you sold $1,000 computer, and eBay said, hey, rather than giving you $1,000 in cash minus the fees, report it and pay taxes on it, just leave it in $1,000 eBay credit. If you had a store credit in eBay, it does and does not do a lot of things. One, it's not a token. It's not crypto. It can't be stolen. You can't steal eBay credits. They don't really fluctuate. They're kind of just worth $1. they can only be spent in eBay. So that's what's called closed loop. It's a closed market. But also, Paul, interestingly, if you have $1,000 credit and you want to buy something and the guy's in Zimbabwe or Bolivia or Brazil, you don't care what the currency is. You have $1,000 of credits to buy from somebody in eBay. If you take that and add a couple zeros on it, we build a solution where a company like Ford will be able to sell cars to China, receive G-BUC business credits for $10 million worth of credits, and now use credits to buy something in Zimbabwe or Brazil. It never converts to currency. So we've built the world's first closed loop global marketplace with, it's technically an electronic currency, but if you call it that, people freak out. So I call it a credit. It's a store credit.
Interesting. Let me ask you, when you were a little boy, did you ever think you were going to be doing what you're doing now?
No, but when I was a little boy, everything to me didn't make sense. I kind of questioned everything about how things work. But actually, Paul, I don't know how things work. I know how to create ideas. I don't know how to build things. So I grew up in a construction family. My dad was an architect, and the architect plans are how things are built. The contractors are the ones who build it. But the guy with the vision is the one who first says, hey, I want to build a building. Here's what I want it to look like. And so I learned in that arc, I'm kind of like the guy that has a vision of what I want a building to look like that nobody's ever seen before. And then I bring people in to create PowerPoints and workflows. And now we have a plan and I hire people to build it. So I'm not a technologist. I can like create weird ideas and do things nobody's ever done before.
So how can our audience get involved with what you're doing, and what do you suggest for them to how to move this forwards with you guys?
Well, Paul, you and I met, if you recall, back through SALT a couple of years ago, back when SALT was actually doing things in person. So the audience for me is everything from Fortune 500 CFOs, chief procurement officers, and finance officers, to the investment community, all the way over to, we've got an environmental project we're launching. So with your audience, Paul, share with me what's the demographic or the thing that your audience would be most interested in? Investment opportunities, sales, learning how to do new things, Bitcoin, blockchain. We can talk about whatever you want.
I would say, I have a diverse audience because I have about 5,000 shows on Good News. And a lot of them are authors, very, prolific writers and wise people about their specific area of expertise. I don't think there's at this moment because, anything general, because, we're Good News, it's not really fully a sales scenario, but you never know because, people are 360 degrees, they're not 180. So the same kind of well-known person, celebrity say even, could maybe hear something that you have to say here and wonder. So let me though ask you a wonder question. Okay, so it's best to have a product in this last endeavor that you're doing. Do I need a product to barter, or can I barter my services? Could I barter, for example, my broadcasting station and say I have 1,000 hours to barter off? We do 1,000 interviews, but you know what I need? I need a car. So just that for an example.
Yeah, and so that's a good question, Paul. And you asked me about 4 things in there that I'm going to answer in the affirmative, but I'll walk us through a little scenario. Media is one of the top 10 industries that do barter and trade.
Yeah.
So there's 10 industries in the world. It's airlines, automotive, computers, food and drink, shipping. Media is a big one because if you don't sell a commercial on Monday night, you can't resell a commercial on Tuesday. So you have a fungible terminating, value. Within what you were talking about, your show might have 1,000 hours of commercial availability. We built a system where you not only can say, here's 1,000 hours I have available at this rate and sell it for cash, but you could say, I'm willing to do 10% of those hours in barter. So you can set limits and say, I've got 1,000 hours, but I'm willing to trade 100. And you could trade it to a guy who is, doing something good news to help the environment, earn credits, and then use the credits to go get something from an airline or automotive or a car. You don't have to negotiate equal value. And within big companies like WPP, one of the biggest agencies in the world, has Midas Group. Midas just runs the media. Icon International under Publicis does a 1.6 billion of trading of media assets. So media is one. You used a different word under there, though, that I'm going to slide down to, of time. You may be an accountant or an attorney or a consultant that says, hey, I'm not real busy right now because I'm an accountant. It's October, November, December. Let me put hours out for trade. But January, February, March, going into tax season, here's my standard rate. I don't have any trade hours. So that capability to look at yourself as an asset and say, do I have idle hours that I could trade, or do I have hours of capacity? And again, what our software does is has a little button that says publish yes or no, and you can publish yourself in or out when you're available. You can set your hours. So to answer all your question, yes, you can do hours, you can do services. Media is a big, big component of the world of trade.
Well, the media is, my wonderment, or one of them, because I've known, bartering with media and so on and so forth. So, Stephen, I'm very happy we connect here. Scaramucci's still doing his thing, I think, virtually. He continues to do content, and he's had these very wonderful events, I would say. He's been able to bring in some wonderful people. Let me ask you one last question at this moment, unless there's something else you'd like to add at this time.
Well, let me have you ask your question, and I want to end with a different product company we have that fits more in good news and might make sense.
This guy's amazing. This guy is unbelievable. He probably came up with 5 new businesses by the end of this conversation. All right. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you grow up?
Oh, so again, the bullseye pedantic nature of me, that's a question, Paul, that I'm always remiss to answer, because I say define grow up. And then people say, well, where were you born? And I'm like, well, I was born in Louisiana on a military base, but I lived there 6 months. So I went to 13 schools through 8th grade. I didn't really grow up in one location. Louisiana, Texas, Hawaii, California, Oklahoma. I went to high school and college in Kansas City, which is where my formative years were. I moved to Chicago after college, then Los Angeles, and I used to go back and forth. I called it Chicangeles. And now I have a place in LA, Beverly Hills. I have one in Chicago, and I have a place in Malta.
That's the guy's a wild man.
And we're about to get rid of Malta because we can't get in very much with COVID, and move to Dubai. So I'm moving things to Dubai, and Dubai is a fascinating region right now because of the GCC, the UAE, the MENA region. They all, like the Abraham Accords that Trump was successful putting in, that whole region is coordinating in a way that's never been done before. It's a fascinating opportunity right now.
Great things. Well, okay. So you, instead of me closing, you want to give me something before. But see, I end with this question because it's sort of like the ending, and it's easier for my editors. I'm gonna talk straight, so they can, because if I don't do that, then I'm gonna have to say, well, now you got to go into the show, and then take the question out.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's end on that question, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to do another interview. And the product I was mentioned to you, as a spinoff of the Pet Rock. And we have a way to save the environment by saving water, plastic, power, pollution, and money in 60 seconds, and win a Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, so yes, let's do that again, because we got a lot on the plate here, and environment happens to be one of my major areas. I have a show called The Water Hour. We help create the United Nations Day of Water. I started Nature Series on PBS. I got a ton of environmental, part of the Clear Waters, Pete Seeger. So this is a very serious scenario.
Yes, let's do a separate one just
Let's
focused
lay
on
off
that.
on that. But in the
Perfect.
meantime, in between time, what does peace mean to Stephen Mead? Since we're involved with the International Day of Peace, September 21st, I'd love for you to get involved. And 193 countries raised their hand to have a day of peace. What does peace mean to you?
That's an interesting question, Paul. To me, peace means starting with yourself. Like, I have a bunch of sayings I've created from these books I've read in thousands of hours, right? 99% of the things you worry about never happen, so why worry? When something happens, all you can control are your actions and your attitude. You know, don't take things personally. So many people are offended by things that things become very negative and judgmental. If we didn't take things personally, if we allow people to have different opinions, if we were all working towards being happy and positive, even if we don't have the same ideals, you know, if we become more peaceful, those around us become more peaceful. I think it starts from the individual up. I don't think it can go top down.
I'm on your page. You're on my
Perfect.
page. We're in it together. All we
Exactly.
are is what we are for each other. Stephen, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Great seeing you, Paul. Thank you.
Good seeing you too.